I'd like to call the June 6th meeting of the Board of Education to order. Welcome. It's the end of the year.
I feel like you're going to say, come on down. Oh, I don't think so.
So we are at the best time of year when we can start really celebrating some of our successes and our joys. And so we start off tonight with recognitions.
And we are going to start with our Kathleen McGowan Scholarship Awardees, and Aaron is going to kick us off.
All right. Last night we had the wonderful pleasure of awarding 5 students, seniors, that are going off to the field of education at the award ceremony that Mr. O'Brien hosted last night, and it was fascinating. I think he said, you can help me out here, but 130 students and over $100,000 were awarded last night at the award ceremony, so it was great. So I think there's 3 students here today, so I'm going to ask you to stand a little bit. Just come forward, if you would. Luke Sauls. Luke is a student that went through Terriffill School and a senior. We're going to ask you in a few minutes of what you're going to do. And we have Sophie Levesque over here and Brianna Gaffney. And I don't think there's 2 other students, the 2 other, Amira Alfeki and Gabrielle Gurr, that aren't able to be here. Amira's attending Mount St. Mary's University, and Gabrielle will be going to the University of Connecticut. So Luke, why don't you tell us what your plans are and what you plan to do next year?
So I will be majoring in physical education and with a minor in health, and I will be going to Springfield College, which I've heard is the best phys ed school I can go to.
Great. Congratulations, Luke.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be going to the University of Connecticut, hoping I can get into the NEAG School of Education my sophomore year.
Great.
That is.
I am going to Eastern Connecticut State University, and I will be starting to study elementary education and kind of like a minor in history and social studies.
Great. So congratulations to all 3 of you, and representing the McGowan Fund is really quite an honor for us here, and I think for the board. So congratulations to all of you. And Sophie, I think you have somebody with you tonight.
Yes, this is my dad.
Congratulations.
And I think everybody else came out great. So thank you for that.
Congratulations, all of you.
All righty. So next, I would like to actually recognize Matt Spector. Matt, if you could stand, we'll make you feel awkward for just a moment. I know how you love this. But Matt is our Simsbury Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year. So this is an annual award given by our Chamber of Commerce. They also recognize kind of a Citizen of the Year award and then a Business Person of the Award. And they have a luncheon that was last week, I believe, that Tara attended, and Aaron was there as well with Matt, and I think your wife was there, right? And so a nice luncheon. But Matt, I just wanted to bring you out tonight, and I know it's an incredible busy time of the year, but just recognize you for the incredible work you do with kids. Matt works with our special needs students. You've been with us 5 years now, so I think we started, this is my 5th year as superintendent. I remember your first year as a teacher, and when we think about the impact that Matt has, this kind of term of being all in is what we talk about, and he meets the kids' needs in each and every way that he can, really demonstrates and identifies what their gifts are and sets kids up for success. I can't even begin to talk about the time you put in and the continuous effort and what you do for our students. Matt's also extremely involved with Unified Sports and has taken that whole program to an entirely new level. So, I mean, he's an exemplar for what we hope our teachers become. I'm glad we could honor you in this way, Matt, and I hope you're with us for many, many years, because you really make magic for kids. So thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
So all you, come on in, please join us. So all you soon-to-be teachers, there's your
Go.
goal.
Right?
Squad goals, as
Good
they say.
stuff.
Come on in. Happy to have you.
I bet it's Amira. I think.
Sure, if you're McGowan.
Amira?
Oh, all right.
I only remembered from last night. It was very quick on the stage, but I would like to introduce Amira Alfeki, who is from representing Tooten Hills Elementary School.
Squadron line.
Oh, I'm sorry, Squadron Line. And why don't you stand? We just recognized the other three, but if you would stand and tell us a little bit about what you're pursuing as you go on, where you're going to go to school and what you're pursuing.
Yeah, so I got into Mount St. Mary's University. I got like a full tuition covered scholarship. I'm deciding between education, whether or not I'm just gonna take like core classes or decide to do like a physician's assistant program. And yeah, so I chose a school because it's a lot about like leadership and things that like I don't know, it's like things that like Simsbury has really taught us how to like be and whatnot, and I just feel like the two just kind of correlate, and it's just something that I'm like really proud to be from Simsbury, and it just got my foot in the door with a lot of colleges and everything. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Proud mom is here. Thank you.
Kind of put her on the spot, pardon for the entire day.
That's perfect. She did a great job. And are there any other?
We have our yearbook
Yay.
to pass out, so we have Michelle Henry here
okay.
tonight.
CEEF Awards too?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can do this.
So Michelle, if you want to kind of
Sure.
introduce the two students we
Good
have
evening,
tonight.
everyone. I'm Michelle Henry. I'm one of the teacher advisors for our yearbook, and I am proud to be here to present Iris Bacine and Margaret Drabo. Before they share a couple comments on our yearbook, I just want to commend them for the extraordinary work that they have put in this year. They have tirelessly devoted their time and effort, overtime I would have to say, in dedicating this yearbook to our class of 2017. I think what is especially remarkable about this pair is that they were able to really gauge the interests of their classmates. So this is really, I would say, a class consensus. Hence, the satisfaction of the classmate, it would be ranked, I would say 1 to 10 on that scale. I would say it's a 10. You ask your senior classmates, right, Emily and all the seniors here, they would give it 100% approval. So that's pretty amazing. I've been the
pretty
advisor
good.
for the past 3 years, and I have never seen so many nods of approval from your peers, especially your peers. So that is something that is worth, to be commended for. So great job, ladies, and you can now share a little remarks on the yearbook.
Okay. So this year, our theme is Life as We Know It, and we really wanted to focus on the town of Simsbury. I moved here my sophomore year, and I just fell in love with this town. I know a lot of kids who've grown up here think it's boring over time, but I really wanted to highlight all the great things it has to offer, so when we go off into the world and come back here, we know all the beauty that this town had and all the special places that we shared once when we were in high school. So hence the location symbol and maps throughout the book. We also have some special pages focusing on our favorite landmarks and spaces within the town too, where we asked our class to share their favorite places and spaces and why they loved them.
So throughout the year we worked Mondays every day after school, along with outside of the school, either at the high school or at the library. And throughout the year we basically gave polls to the senior class and asked them, what are your favorite places around town? Why do you love the town, and what are some of your favorite things? And through that, we continue to make this book Life as We Know It and make sure we keep all these memories forever.
What are your plans next year?
I'm going to Tufts University to study child development and community health.
And I'm going to UConn to study linguistic psychology.
Wonderful. Well, being a native of Simsbury, I can't wait to get my hands on it.
You want to make sure that they pick the right places.
I'm sure they did. There are too many to put in one book. Nicely done.
Very much, and congratulations. Thank you. Good work.
Thank you very much.
Quite an accomplishment.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's why I was trying to get in before.
Please know that in the past 2 years, there was the option of making the yearbooks interactive. If you remember the last 2 years, you were able to scan the picture and then videos would pop up. Well, this year, the senior class was not interested in the videos, so that's why they decided not to include them. So if you had parents asking, well, because the class wasn't interested, so.
Very good.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Let's get back to our meeting.
Yeah, we can't.
All right.
All right,
you
we
very
have.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. One more recognition as the CEEF Awards.
The CEEF Awards. I have two innovative teachers here behind me that not only with our McGowan Fund, but they reached out to to CEEF for some monies to do some innovative things within their classrooms or for the school. So Laura Rosado, if you would stand. Laura is a fourth grade teacher at Squadron Line, and some of you may remember last year she was awarded a large grant, McGowan grant, to purchase bicycles for Squadron Line. It wasn't quite enough, so she decided to reach out to CEEF. So Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Sure. One of the things that prompted me to go forward with that and reaching out to McGowan and CEEF was that I am a bicyclist myself, and I'm on the board for the Farmington Valley Trails Council, and one of our big pushes right now is safety and education. Trails are built, and so we're trying to teach people how to be safe, whether you're a bicyclist or otherwise. So safety and education as an elementary teacher is important to me. So Rich Keegan and I got together and we talked about this and how could we help out the bicycle safety program that we have here in Simsbury in our schools. So with the McGowan grant, CEEF, and also with the help of our PTO at Squadron Line, we were able to buy those bicycles for Squadron. And shed was found for us that we have them stored in. We've got some great plans for the fall, starting up some bicycling clubs and helping our children learn to be safe, to ride bikes. There are children who don't know how to ride them safely. So that's what we've been doing over at Squadron. So.
And it's wonderful because it's part of our program now at elementary schools, but we only have one fleet of bikes that we were moving among the 5 schools. So now this is really offsetting that for more opportunities for kids. So thank you, Laura, for spearheading that. The other teacher that's here tonight is Stephanie Mastriani, and she's a kindergarten teacher at Tierfield School. And Stephanie reached out to CEEF and was awarded $1,000. And Stephanie, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So I teach kindergarten at Tierfield Elementary School. Many moons ago, I had Tara's daughter in kindergarten Central. So what I've noticed in my kindergarten classroom is with the rigor of the curriculum, it's really hard for our little guys to sit still all day. So I reached out to CEEF to see if I could have some fun and engaging things to keep them moving throughout the day. And what I was able to do was get some different alternative seating for the kids. So wobble stools, yoga balls, and even resistance bands for the bottoms of the chairs to help them with movement. And I even created a corner in my classroom where the kids could go to have a little bit of a motor break when needed. And then also I created another corner in my classroom for just like a calm corner, and where I was able to put some nice beanbag chairs, and that really helps the kids refocus. And I also have lots of different fidgets. Now, we know fidget spinners are a big thing right now, but there's also some other kinds of fidgets and therapy putty that really helps the little kids with anxiety and helps them get through the day. So overall, I'd say the CEEF grant was just such a blessing to have in my classroom. The kids really, really appreciated it, and so did I as well.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's nice also to remember that these teachers have to, it's above and beyond, and it takes
Yes,
more,
it
it
does.
takes their own time in their own houses to put in for these grants and these opportunities. So they should be credited a lot for taking the time to make sure that they bring more, even more into their classrooms.
Right.
We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
And glad that you had success.
Thanks, guys. All right.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes. You're all
We
good.
appreciate it. I'm sure you're all have lots of studying to do for finals next week.
Have a great night.
Slow
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to board and administrative communications. Emily? Oh, public audience? Well, I thought everyone left has pretty much been spoken. Sorry about that. Thank you, Katie. Emily?
With wrapping up the end of the year, we have a lot of fun events going on in different schools. Squadron Line just had their family appreciation breakfast to thank all the parents who have volunteered throughout the year, all the different people that have, chipped in to help with all the extra things at Squadron. And I think there are similar events coming up at other schools. I know Tierfield and Tooten are doing it. Tootin also had their duck race. I don't know if anyone went down. It was really cute. I babysitted some kids who go to Tootin, and they were showing me all their ducks. Big success. Henry James, they practiced their block day schedule last week, and I think it went over pretty well. I know when I was in Henry James, I would think that would have been a really good thing to help transition to the high school. So I think that's exciting. They also had 7th grade field day today and their 8th grade day at Boulder Ridge, which I remember being really fun as well. At the high school, for athletics, we had girls rugby and girls track win their state championships. I know for track, we have the state champion in hurdles, pole vault, and triple jump, and maybe a couple other events, but they were really excited about that. We also had senior breakfast where we got our awesome yearbooks. I can attest to the 100% approval rating. They were very well received by the class. We had the art show last week. I don't know if anyone got a chance to go. You see a lot of it here, but just the amount, and especially in the senior booths along the outside, it was really amazing. Jessica Shin, who was here a few weeks ago, was able to sell so much of her artwork. Like it was amazing, her booth, if anyone got a chance.
I didn't know it was for sale.
Yeah, it was.
It sold fast. Only the first night it was for sale.
I was there the first night.
Because it was gone after that. We also had our senior prom last Friday, which was a really fun time. They put on a great dance. The Riverview was an awesome location, and they let all the senior bands perform, which was really fun too. At awards night last night, I just want to speak to how thankful the senior class is for the generosity, not only of the board, but of all of the local businesses and funds that sort of helping offset those college tuition costs. So, yeah, I think that's all I've got for today.
Thank you very much. Did she sell any of her dresses? There was a fashion show too.
Yes, yeah.
First
night.
Fashion
Yep.
show,
That
but
was
some of
pretty
my friends were
spectacular.
models and MCs for it.
It was spectacular.
I don't know if she
Our
sold
friend
those.
Zeke, who used to be
Yes.
on the board, was
Yeah.
MC.
Loved
It was
that.
wonderful.
I'm not sure if they were selling her fashion, but I'm sure if they did, it got snapped up pretty quickly too.
Excellent. Tom?
Only one little thing. We're going to miss you, Emily. It's been such a pleasure to have you here and to listen to your enthusiasm.
Oh, thank you.
That's all.
I just wanted to quickly say I had the privilege of seeing the Squadron Line band concert, the orchestra concert, and the choir concert over the last few weeks, and I think I needed some help with the motor brake. I needed some fidgets. Anyway, it was a great reminder of how this town values the arts, and I just want to hats off to the Squadron, and especially during these budget times when other towns would be quick to put those on the chopping block. It was great to see the value that we place on that as a town.
Good. Well, if I were there, I would have bought a dress.
I'm telling you, there was some great stuff.
So anyway, I'm sorry I missed it. I wasn't here, but I would have gotten a dress or two. So just quickly, what's going on in the legislative news, as you've been reading and hearing, and Tom, I know you'd asked before, but hot off the press, we're at the end, hopefully, of the legislative session, but just a couple bills that passed the House and Senate, and I'll just paraphrase, were qualification requirements for early childhood educators, development of a plan for universal preschool, various revisions, additions to education statutes, revisions to high school graduation requirements, and the bill that passed the House only was creating another task force to conduct a study regarding creation of SPED predictable cost cooperatives. So that just is hot off the press as of this week. As you know, they're in their final throngs of what's going on in the session, and we'll see where we are with that. But with that being said, next Tuesday, the 13th, CABE is sponsoring the legislative wrap-up session. So I will be attending, but it's open to any board members around the state. And this is about what happened and what the implications are for our school district. And the items that are going to be discussed are the education funding, teacher retirement system, high school graduation requirements, the mandates, some good news and some bad news, task force and more task force and more task force, and just the legal update. So after next week, we will hopefully have some good news to present, and we'll take it from there. So that's where we are with that. On the national front, just briefly, again, just about as good as the state front. But again, some of the big areas that are happening in Washington after 4 months of a new administration, activities are just finally starting, so it is a little late. But some of the big areas are the Title I dollars, how it's going to affect the school choice situation, the IDEA level funding, the amended Medicare program that's part of the provision of the health care bill, and the impact aid program for the district. So these are some of the areas that are going on as we speak on the Hill in DC right now. And of course, some of the big areas are the choice options, in particular the increased dollars for the charters, the Focus Grant, which is a weighted student funding formula for a lot of the districts. And just one of the final notes with Secretary DeVos is the word is that there really will be no sweeping changes for the states, affecting the states. There could be little, this is my words, onesies or twosies that are affecting what's going on within proposals per state. And one of them was a way of funding, and the other is just a percentage of how many students will be affected. So that's just a snippet of what's happening, again, in D.C. before they have another month to go before Congress recesses for their summer vacation also. So,
thank you very much.
What's that tonight? Thanks.
I was just going to echo the comments. I did go to the art show and was just so incredibly impressed with what Ms. Gagne and Ms. Siska and all the art teachers and teachers there, the sculpture, all of it. It's such a treat that if anybody missed it, really you should put it on your calendars for next year, because it is just such an incredible compilation of their year.
And amazing talent.
Yeah, it's just
incredible talent.
Stunning. From 9th grade through 12th grade, and you get to see a little bit of everybody's work, not just the big showcase items.
Your son had a portrait where his arm was coming out.
I saw the swimmer. It was the swimmer.
That was his self-portrait, yeah. That was crazy.
And Mr. Holzman had to have gotten a hand on that. He's a sculptor.
That was Miss Siska.
The arm came out.
That was Miss Siska.
She was very good.
Yeah, that was
very impressive.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Miss Lem.
So I wanted to share with the board that Emily Barrett, who's our director at the Farmington Valley Transitional Program on the University of Hartford campus, recently won, I have to look at this title because it's a long one, the School University Partnership Advisory Board Recognition Award. And it's given by the Department of Education at the University of Hartford for someone who has really dedicated their actions toward collaborative practices. And Emily is in her second year as being a director. Before that, she was a teacher at FVTA. She's done an amazing job connecting with the Department of Education, increasing our job sites on campus, as well as across the greater Hartford community. She's welcomed a number of student teachers, both through the Department of Education and as well as through the physical therapy program. So it's very fitting that she would receive this honor. So she was recognized at the University of Hartford at the beginning of May, and just wanted to share that great news with you.
Thank you. Neil?
Just wanted to take a minute tonight to celebrate the tremendous life of one of Simsbury's great educators, Marie Miller, who passed away last week at home. And Marie, if you don't know her story, started a teaching career teaching English at Simsbury High School after raising her daughters, and then taught for 43 years into her 80s. During that time was truly remarkable energy, brought so many kids to high levels of achievement. Lots of our honors, when you see us ranking up there, can be almost directly attributed to Marie Miller's work. She was the advisor of National Honor Society. She prepared the graduation speeches. She was the debate team. She did Simsbury Scholars. It was really incredible, and we honor her life. Sue and I got a chance to visit with her a few days before she passed for about half an hour. We had a ton of laughs. And Marie's family is having a small informal gathering this Friday at the house, but Simsbury High School will be planning a tribute to Marie in the fall, and we had a great conference call with her daughters to start that planning, and we'll be pulling it together in the summer and inform you of the next steps. So,
I just have one item, just to let you know, on June 19th, we'll do our first Math and Focus training for our teachers. The teacher materials have arrived. We're organizing them. We have 3 trainers that will be coming, and all of 100-plus people, teachers, elementary teachers, and middle school teachers will be trained with their first training on June 19th.
Just one item, I don't want to steal Matt's thunder, just a reminder that we're coming to the end of the budget process. I know we've got our last agenda item tonight, but don't forget to have everybody come out on the 13th for the referendum, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's all I got.
Good. I can't believe we're winding down the school year. I want to echo Tom's thoughts. Emily, thank you. You've done a wonderful job. It's been great having you at the table with us.
I've enjoyed it. I have a couple things. One, in regards to the Tooten Hills Duck Race, I just want to make sure people understand how lucky we are to have the town we have, because so many people in town, the fire department and other volunteers, were able to help with that duck race to make it be successful and eco-friendly. And so it's just nice that we have a town that everyone wants to help with fun things like that. Emily, as your last meeting with us, it's just been a joy to work with you and get to know you. Your insight, your enthusiasm, your thoughtfulness is infectious, and we look forward to you and coming back and letting us know how you're doing. We wish you the greatest success and happiness in your future.
Thank you very much.
You need to tell our educator of the year it's okay for him to go home.
You can go home.
That's okay, I like this.
We like having you. I wasn't rushing you out the door. I'm just saying.
Nice to listen to the report, I'm sure the leadership.
The other thing about Marie Miller that is just spectacular, she was so brilliant and she was so generous of her time and energy to any student who asked for it. She has done everything any student ever asked of her. I've got my nephew, she was in a video of his that I was covering my ears, but it was something that they did as a school project, and she's like, sure, I'll be in it, sure, I'll do this, sure, I'll do that. She was always willing to help in any sort of project or opportunity to learn, grow, and embrace life. And she was just wonderful. I was very lucky. She is a legend. She was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
She had the respect of the kids who had her and those who didn't. It's hard. And
She had the respect of those kids, yeah.
Yeah.
I posted it, and one of my friends wrote, I made it a week in her class.
No one said she was easy.
Oh, she was not easy. That I can attest to. But all that said, she will be missed and celebrated. Moving on. Okay, the meeting of May 9th, 7 p.m. Minutes.
So moved.
Ms. Tenone, do you have a comment?
Yes, I have a correction.
We have a correction?
Yes, it states that under roll call, members present, that I arrived at 7:13. I was in DC that night, so.
You didn't arrive at all?
I didn't arrive at all.
She would be
I wasn't here.
All right, so that is corrected. Ms. Selena, will you move, are you
I
still
can
moving
move
as
the
corrected?
revised minutes.
Thank you very much.
Second?
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
You're abstaining.
I'm abstaining, that's right.
All right, the minutes of May 12th. Anyone have anything, they have any comments? Any motion?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Any second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed?
No, I'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Minutes of the special meeting of May 18th, 2017. Any comments? Any motion?
No motion.
Thank you very much. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you very much.
Abstain.
Moving on to the meeting of, the emergency meeting of, wait, where am I? Oh, yeah, the emergency meeting of the 18th. We were busy that day. All those in favor? Any questions, I mean? Any motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Any second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
I'll
thank you very much. Moving on to Mr. Sullivan.
A number of personnel items for board action tonight, the first of which is a retirement that will be happening literally in about a week and a half. as Betsy Rollins, who is a 5th grade teacher at Squadron Line with previous experience also at Latimer Lane School, 26 years of service to the Simsbury Public Schools, and the motion is that the Board of Ed approve the retirement of Elizabeth Rollins effective July 31st, 2017.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
She will be missed.
Yes, thank you to Betsy for her incredible service. These are also notices of intent to retire. These ones are a little happier because we keep these people for 3 more years. As you know, this is a part of the SEA contract where they can give us advance notice. So these are retirements for June 30th of 2020. The first is our special education teacher at Tooten Hill School, Diane Benson, who has currently finishing her 14th year here in Simsbury, and Roz Jetty, who I first met as a parent of students through Simsbury High School, but has been teaching at Latimer Lane, is back in kindergarten this year after many years in other primary grades. Currently 37 years and signing up for 3 more. So the motion is that the Board of Ed approve the notice of intent to retire of Diane Benson and Rosalind Jetty effective June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Second? Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much.
The next one is a resignation. This is obviously one the board will take note of, given some of our public audience around the budget. This is the Chinese teacher that a lot of folks came out to talk about, and this is one of the unintended consequences when you're talking publicly about a program that's got low enrollment. And this was a teacher who had some opportunities in other districts where Chinese programs were healthier, and feeling that with her notion of her job security and what would be best for her, she has accepted a position in another local district and resigned her position here in Simsbury. Aaron and I have been talking with the world language leaders and the principals about moving the program forward. We are going to be able to preserve the students who are in the program with the other teacher that we have. We're actually looking at a pretty cool distance learning opportunity that another local school district is using that we've gotten some great feedback about. Erin's kind of doing her homework on that. So it's a great loss that Chiffon Theodoro has submitted her resignation, but we do have a plan forward for the Chinese program. So the motion is to approve the resignation of Chiffon Theodoro effective June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
It's so disappointing, and it's just the challenges that we face these days are really, they affect everything, and we need to be very aware. And we wish her luck in her new adventure, but we will miss her.
You have to vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the last one is a request for partial leave of absence. Kelly Delaria is requesting a non-salary leave of absence. Without going into too much detail, she does have some health concerns that would allow her to continue teaching, but actually on a part-time basis. And she has requested to reduce her teaching load for just for next year. So it's a non-salaried leave of absence from August of 2017 to June of 2018 in accordance with the leave policy. And we are recommending it. She will continue to teach part-time. So the motion is to request a part-time non-salaried guaranteed leave of absence for Kelly Delaria effective August 28th, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
All right. Anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Mrs. Murray, you're on to textbooks?
Oh, is that next? Okay. I have the wrong order.
No, fee schedule, sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Mr. Leclerc, fee schedule,
Thank
please.
you. So this is your second time looking at this. We, as we discussed last time, we have surveyed, compared notes with some of our neighboring districts. The increases are generally rounded about to percent and then round to the nearest 50 cents or a dollar. And in the last fiscal year, we took in about $52,000 in 15-16 of revenue, and as a reminder, this goes to the town general fund, and we are estimating a similar amount for next year, and happy to answer any questions you may have about our fee schedule.
Anyone have any questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Anyone?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate your effort. And now we're on to
Textbooks?
textbooks.
At the last Board of Ed meeting, I presented examples of the math and focus textbooks, and they've been on display out in my office and in the area. No changes have been made to that recommendation at this point. So we're asking for your approval to approve the textbook adoptions for math and focus.
Anyone have any questions?
I would move that we approve the textbooks.
Second? Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's very exciting. And now we're moving on to the summer board meetings. So the board is scheduled to meet during the summer on June 27th, July 11th, 25th, and August 8th and the 22nd. It's been past practice of the Board of Education to cancel the regularly scheduled summer meetings if a meeting's necessary. Before September, the special meeting can be scheduled. So I'm recommending that we approve the motion to cancel the board meetings for the summer.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It does say 2016. I'll adjust that.
Oh, can we adjust it to the 17?
Yes.
I really should have brought my glasses tonight, I'm just saying. Sorry about that, everybody.
But the dates are right, yeah.
The days are right, the year is the 17th. So the motion is for the 17th. In the second, you're all set? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That said, we have a special meeting scheduled for June 20th,
June 20th, yeah.
which was not on that
Oh,
list.
that's for sure.
That's for sure. So, moving right along. We are moving on to SHS Leadership Team recommendations.
So I would invite Mr. O'Brien, principal at Simsbury High School, to the table. And tonight, we have the opportunity to hear a summary report of the Simsbury High School leadership team. This leadership team has been a team that has met every year. It was under the direction of Mr. Sullivan for many years, and Mr. O'Brien continues. It's a representative team of administration, students, parents, teachers that come together to really dig deeply into the continuous improvement plan and areas of focus over the course of the year. Sue Salina and Todd Burek are also members on this leadership team. So tonight, Andy's here tonight to give us a summary, and at some point I may tag team with him, but this is really Andy's opportunity to tell you a little bit of the work and the focus that will take place further into the next year and beyond.
So, thank you. This is a subject that was explored in 2010. There were recommendations that were made, and some of those recommendations have been acted upon, and another recommendation was to revisit this topic periodically. So that's why we chose to revisit this now, because it was about that time. So the objectives tonight is to review our findings and the list of recommendations. So I'm actually going to show you some of the same slides that we worked through with the committee, and then show you essentially the recommendations that we have moving forward. These were the three questions that we asked the committee to grapple with. We wanted to find out how much of a factor school-related stress is in the lives of our students. Are there ways that we can reduce this within our schools? And then what can be done to help our students manage stress in their lives, which we know is an inevitable part of being alive in our world, is you will encounter stress, and how do you cope with that? How do you manage it so you can still be productive and successful? We reminded ourselves that we are a very high-performing high school. We are one of the best high schools in the country, and we are that way because we have very hard-working students. And here are just some of the
many accolades. These are our academic indicators here, where we have so many students that participate in AP, that do incredibly well in those classes. Our ranking with U.S. News and World Report, our SAT scores, and our CAP Science, which was first place in the state. This is just our academic indicators. We could probably have had a similar slide for our work in athletics. You heard about our state championship teams that we've had, our performing arts, our visual arts, all of those endeavors. We are blessed that we have hardworking students and staff members that really push themselves. And oftentimes we'll see some of the same students are doing many of these same activities. These are some of the recommendations from the 2010 study. And the check marks indicate things that were acted upon. The bullets are things that were discussed but were not implemented necessarily. There was guidelines for homework, and that was checked off. There was an A-B day test rotation, but that's something that I think was too restrictive for teachers and students to be locked into a schedule to say you only test on this day, you only test on that day. There was discussion about having a policy so that students would not have more than 2 major assessments on a day, but that was something that was not included in the handbook. You'll see later we included that in the handbook more recently, but that was a recommendation from this group to empower students that if you had a confluence of assessments, more than 2, that you could request that your teachers allow you to take one of those on another day. Honoring vacations, and this is something, having a student in another district, that I often wish he benefited from, but it is not embraced in other communities, that we try to really allow families and students to have a respite from major projects during their summer vacations or holidays, etc. With the exemption of some of the AP work that has to happen during April, etc. There was discussion back then about group projects and how that was often stress-inducing for students because of everybody's schedule and having to be physically in the same location. This is something I think that's been remedied by technology now with Google and Google Forms and slides, etc., that where students can be in different places and still actually participate and do their work. Study halls were encouraged, and they are encouraged still, especially for underclassmen. There was discussion back then, as you'll see still now, about the schedules around extracurricular and athletic activities because our students are so active outside of the school day. And then there also are some limitations right now specifically with our athletic fields, because we only have a couple of fields and many sports that are trying to access those. It causes practice times for many of them to have to be stacked and scheduled later. We'll see a recommendation about that, but back then even we knew that was something of a concern. The need to continue to educate parents and students about stress and ways to handle that and manage it. And then there was a recommendation then to make the move to the 8-period block schedule that we have now, the hybrid block schedule, to accommodate the transition to the 25-credit requirement that had rolled out since that time. When I had arrived, I was aware that there were some areas of discomfort, and these were things just in my first year that we tried to do to make our school more welcoming and more comfortable for our students and address some of the things that had been brought to my attention early on. We renovated the courtyard as an additional space to bring some nature and a little bit of a respite for students to get away from concrete, et cetera, to be around nature. Outdoor seating for lunch. And also access to the amphitheater, because that was something I was aware that many students did not like the noise or the confining nature of the cafeteria. Some of them were opting to eat in hallways and other places, but that was problematic, so we expanded our seating outdoors with umbrellas and tables, and then also opened the amphitheater as an alternative space for students to eat. The Writing Center, we moved that into rooms A214 and 216 that are attached as a larger space where students could go in to access computers. It's been opened first thing in the morning. Many students said it was hard when they got off the bus. If they needed to print a paper or get access to something, the library wouldn't open until 7:15. We've been fortunate that Mr. Leftoff has been able to open that at 7 o'clock this year, so that's been a benefit. We created a conference room in A219 with comfortable couches as an alternative meeting space for students and for staff members, a place where you could sit and meet as a group with your Connect or with your teacher. We have our leadership team meetings in there, and that's been a benefit. And we did include the language in the student handbook around summative assessment so that students were empowered to know of this policy to make adjustments if they had more than 2 assessments in one day. And then this year, we rolled out the improved SHS Connect model, which brought seniors in and also developed the freedom for teachers and students to pursue their interest, whether that be music or movies or crafts or food or what have you. So we wanted to know, okay, how are students doing now? We had some data around 2010, and so how are they feeling this year? We had developed a survey, took quite a bit of time to develop that survey, but we came to consensus as far as what it should look like, and then we administered it, and we had a very good participation rate. If we were to look at this, out of our population of just over 1,400 students, to have 1,128 responses was what we felt a very valid sample. Here's some of the highlights from the survey when we look at this. That stress is a factor for many of our students. They confided, 78.4% said yes, stress is something they're encountering. 35.5% said high levels, and 42.9% were moderate. 55.5% said yes, they believe that stress levels they're experiencing can be harmful. We had areas on the survey where students could identify male, female, their grade level, and we also included something called gender spectrum for students who did not necessarily want to identify, or that may be identified with a category other than male or female. We had about 22 students in that area. And then when we look at this, those 3 groups were probably students that were experiencing the more highly elevated stress levels. Girls in grades 10 and 11, the students that had identified themselves as gender spectrum, and then students that were taking 5 or more honors courses, students that have really developed pretty challenging schedules. When we asked, do you have control over your stress, 46.3% of them said no, they could really benefit from some strategies or ways that they could manage that more effectively. We had questions to ask about the pressure, acknowledging that at times there can be benefits. What are some of the benefits and what are some of the drawbacks? And these were the things we called from that. Students cited better time management, meeting deadlines, keeping focus. Those were all the positive takeaways from finding themselves under pressure. But the negative impacts found themselves with low energy, impacts on sleep, and then stress, headaches, and mood swings. So we tried to pinpoint where is the pressure coming from as we looked at this, and we found that there were areas where students had said, yes, our parents are expecting success, and our teachers are expecting success, and our friends within our social circles were trying to maintain our performance. But there were students on the committee themselves who said, we really impose this pressure, many of us, on ourselves. We are choosing to build schedules like this. We are choosing to participate in all these activities because we feel the need to distinguish ourselves. That they pride themselves so highly on their work that they really want to show their peers, their community, their teachers that they can do everything and do it incredibly well. So that results in a significant school and workload and fairly packed schedule of activities. Many of them cited the need to build their resume and to boost their GPA so it can be as high as humanly possible for them. And then there was discussion around the 25 credit graduation requirements that we currently have. You heard earlier that there's discussion at the state level about possibly amending those, but for now we are still working in that area, and that can be difficult for some students based on their interests or other areas they would like to pursue. So moving forward, right, what can we do about this? What are some of the takeaways? We identified 3 major areas. Are there systems changes? Are there things we're doing, the way that our school day is structured or our schedule or activities that might lend themselves to creating more stress? And if there are, and there's things we can do that won't compromise the experience or take away from the educational process, then those are things that we should consider doing. Are there things we need to learn a little bit more about now that we know what we know from what was shared with us? And are there things maybe we should look into for the research column? So when we look at the systems area, we said, we should probably take a look at our assessment schedules. And this is some work that's already been going on. It's been going on in parallel to this when we were continuing the work of the Simsbury Assessment Think Tank. That was our committee that was developed across the district to really look at assessment. How many significant tests and quizzes and projects are students faced with, and how many are enough One of the things that we found is that at the high school in particular, there's a lot of variation around the mid-year. Some teachers are having mid-year exams, others are not. There is not a formal mid-year exam schedule. And we ran into this and we found the difficulties with that when we started to experience snow on Wednesdays. Many teachers had their exams on Wednesdays. It would snow, and then the school would be canceled, and then they would say, well, we don't meet again until next Wednesday in that large block, so now your exam is moved to the following week, creating difficulty for students and everybody. We also have EOCs, these end-of-course assessments that were developed. Many of them are happening at the second semester after a fair amount of the school year has gone by, but it's difficult to coordinate these. They carry a substantial amount of weight, and that can be very stressful for students. So we have done work with our department supervisors to develop for next year a formal mid and end-of-year schedule. And that's another presentation I can give you more information about in the fall, but that should be a stress reliever for students and for staff. The school day, we want to take a look at our schedule. We do have the hybrid block schedule that has been in place for a period of time, and it makes sense now to take a look at that. And then also the notion of possibly having a later start time. There's a fair amount of research that's in support of this, that when we look at adolescents, that it is very hard for them to go to bed early, even if they wanted to, and then oftentimes it's hard for them to get up early because their bodies still want to stay sleeping. Physiologically they're still developing. At the same time, you've got young kids that are good to go at the crack of dawn. They're up, your elementary school students and others are ready to hit the ground running. So this is being looked at by other districts, other high-performing districts, and that's something we think maybe we should take a look at. And then extracurriculars, still knowing what we know about the schedules and the practice times, are there things we can do with that? By shifting to some of these later start times, et cetera, that may be an inroad towards that. As far as the education area, we want to help students to understand that there's different ways to manage their stress. Okay, if they're electing to take on so many activities and participate in so many things, that they should understand how to try to balance that, and what are some coping strategies, developing a balanced schedule. Student-to-student messaging. This was interesting that we found that the students that were on our committee had said, my freshman year was something, but my sophomore year was really difficult. When I first started to experience APs, I thought I had this down, but I really did not know what I know now. And we said, would it be a good idea maybe for some upperclassmen to share, maybe to write a note to freshmen that are coming in, or to speak to freshmen that are coming in, to say, welcome to the high school, this is a great place, you're going to have an awesome 4 years, but here's some things you should know. Here's some kind of some of the ropes that are going to help you to be successful. We do strongly encourage and require study halls for freshmen. There was a discussion of should we consider moving that towards the sophomore year as well for some students, right? Or strongly suggesting that. If you're taking AP Seminar or you're taking AP Biology, those are difficult courses. And you're probably going to need that extra time, especially if you're also an athlete, or you are also in band, or you're also in the performing arts. Parents and guardians, just helping them to understand a little bit about stress and post-secondary planning. Our students, when our students graduate, they are incredibly well prepared. All of our students, and we find that. We find that from testimony when students come back and they share with us how well prepared they feel. When we look at our success rate for students that are entering colleges, when we look at our persistence rate and our 6-year graduate survey studies, that our students should know when they graduate from Simsbury High School, they are ready. And maybe they should think to specialize and just really think about how much they are taking on and understand that they're still going to do very well. And then finally, for educators, now that we are switching to Google Classroom and many teachers are taking this on, we have to help develop protocols around that. If I'm communicating with my students after school hours and I'm doing other things, what are some good policies so that when students leave your classroom, they know what work they're responsible for? Because if I have a study hall after your class and I have practice after school, I want to use that time in that study hall wisely to get that work done. I shouldn't have to check into Google Classroom at 5 or 6 o'clock at night to see what work might be appearing for me, because that's pretty late in the day. And then the teacher recommendation process. This was interesting. When teachers are currently making recommendations at the mid-year, and they're trying to make a recommendation for levels in the future, many of them were, the teachers on the committee were saying that oftentimes it might be best to leave those level recommendations to students themselves and their parents. If every teacher was to say, I believe this student is capable of AP work, does that then compel that student in the following year to take 5 or more APs to feel as though they have to? When they might be saying, you can, but you don't necessarily have to do that. So those are some things that were interesting around our education piece. And if we look at research.
Yep, he got it.
Going? There we go. Taking a closer look at those subgroups, okay? We're really compelled to take a closer look for our girls, for our gender spectrum students, for our students that are taking numerous honors courses to say, what are some other things we can do to help them? The support centers that we have, for example, the Writing Center, some students confided that they are less likely to access a support center because of maybe any perceived stigma associated with going there, and we want to find ways to make that more open and inclusive. We want to integrate more peer tutoring there. We want to really open those doors so that people can really go there and feel good about going there. Looking at our day schedules, which we talked about, and then monitoring the secondary school reform developments. If there are leniencies, if there are some areas that we can roll back, then I think that opens the door for some students to have more of their own personalization and maybe take a little bit of heat off for them. So this is kind of the culminating slide as we look to next year. These are the things specifically next year we would like to look at. We're going to look at, our teachers are going to be building the mid and end of year assessments. I will have more information to come out. I know that there were different rumors that there were concerns over senior exemptions changing, et cetera. There will be no change to senior exemptions. We are still going to have that 80% exemption there. So if I'm a senior and I've earned that privilege to be exempt from my final exam, I still will have that same privilege. So I want to set those students at ease. I have met with student council members and explained it to them. I don't know if this is a cruel trick perpetrated by some exiting seniors telling the juniors that's the way it's going to be, but no, it's not. And helping them understand our intent, which is to allow you to focus on fewer assessments and to give you time to study and go deep.
One of the other pieces, Andy, with those, the mid and the end of the year assessment days, what we'd like to pilot next year is a later start time. Maybe have them start at 9 o'clock in the morning and not at 7:30 in the morning. So that's something else that we'll pursue.
Around education, continuing our work with mindfulness and other stress management and coping strategies. Helping students really take a look at their schedule and think about what they are signing up for and understanding how that may coincide or conflict with their other interests so that they may not bite off too much and know that they've got so many years with us and a chance to pursue different things. And then finally, having the school leadership committee really spearhead this work on the schedule, and we'd be doing that with our staff members as well. So that's our report.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
That's a great report. Anyone have anything that they would like to ask?
I just have a comment. I was really glad to hear the reference to later start time and to hear that we're going to take a good, hard look at it. And I certainly hope we can, because the research is just piling up on that particular subject. And we've been at the leading edge of a lot of things, and maybe we're going to get to be at the leading edge of that particular policy.
It's a topic I'm starting to hear more and more from parents, community members on.
Yeah.
Because of the research base.
Yeah.
I do know West Hartford. I've talked quite a bit with their superintendent, is in a similar kind of place to take a look, so it may be nice to collaborate with them as well, another large district in our area, because there's a lot of implications, from sports to transportation. But we're going to take a look at putting a committee together and really coming back to the board and defining a process. I think, I agree, Tom, it's worth a good, hard look.
Thank you.
So I know you're on the committee.
Yes, ma'am.
And anything you'd like to add, or?
It was a really well-researched, well-run committee, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
We had a lot of material to sift through, and the kids that were on it were very engaging.
They were excellent.
And that's, back when we did it with Neil, that was the most enlightening part, is really hearing from you guys, because we can all have our opinions, but you open our eyes to so many things we just don't know. And the impact of that. So that to me is my favorite part of the committee, is the student interaction.
You guys weren't on the committee?
No.
What are your thoughts on this presentation? Would you mind sharing?
I thought a lot of it definitely rang true. One thing that I think some of the ways that have been most impactful for me in reducing stress is individual teachers who are aware of it and adjust what they do based on it. So I would hope that the data from the survey becomes available to the teachers.
Sure.
I remember last year Mr. Berthium asking our class how many tests we had that week and how many hours of sleep we had gotten. And it was averaging 10 to 14 tests and 3 to 5 hours of sleep. And he adjusted our entire mid-year schedule around it, and that was probably one of the most helpful things in high school.
So he needs to be on the committee. Anything else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, overall I thought it was I think this really sums it up well.
Thank you very much. Isabel?
I'm just going off of Emily. I participated in the survey, and I can definitely say that the results echo the sentiments of many of my peers, specifically the junior girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. You're on the committee too.
There you go.
Thank you very much for your input. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Thank you very much. It was, I'm impressed with all the hard work. We really appreciate it.
Very good job.
Is that participation rate common in surveys at the high school? Just a comment on that.
Sometimes it can be difficult based upon access and times.
Or would you put that down to the nature of the subject here that the students
It
are...
probably depends on whether they gave them class time to do it or not. If you're capturing it while they're, it's so much easier now to hand out a set of Chromebooks and have them do a quick survey right there, so you can get your participation rate up pretty quick.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
In regards to the later start time, which was interesting about the sleep impact, this did come up again with the legislature this year, and it's going to be coming up again. It's been coming up every year, but we're seeing more and more of it on the Hill, even nationally. You will see this. There's a very big impact about those that are pushing. In other parts of the country, they've already adjusted their hours, for school start, and you see this in other parts of the country.
We've collected a lot of that research,
Yes.
the recent research, and we're holding it so that we can present it when we come back together.
Right, so that's,
Thank you very much.
so that's
great.
something that's going to be coming up again, at least with the Connecticut General
great.
Assembly, so.
Anyone
If
else?
I may comment on that, I would, to the degree that you're talking to folks up there, I'd tell them to stay the heck out of it, And leave it up to the districts. The way that'll go is they'll legislate a set of rules that'll apply to all the districts. Burke will get another mandate to track something that we have to report on quarterly that is completely unnecessary. We can manage that on our own. So, I don't know, I would be recommending to the legislators, John Hampton and Kevin Whitco's, let the districts make their own decisions about this stuff. We don't need more programs and mandates.
Well, and this has a lot of moving parts. It has parents, it has families, it's a lot. So I think you're absolutely right to make it be district-based.
In response to that, that's what we do with through CABE and NSBA, is because, how sometimes a lot of these amendments and bills come to fruition is because a constituent or a parent or someone will say something, and then they will bring that. So we've testified on behalf of boards of education saying, yes, we agree, there's studies out, superintendents are looking at this, superintendent association is very involved with this, but this is really an individual district decision in collaboration with other districts. It's also an individual state decision, what goes on in other parts of the country. don't necessarily mean that's the same thing for this, for New England. So these are areas that, 50 states, individual districts within 50 states. So these are decisions and recommendations that we have, brought forward on behalf of boards of
I would hope
education.
CABE would send a letter to the legislature saying that they support the idea that the districts should make this decision on their own.
Yeah, we have, and we've
We
testified.
don't need any additional mandates from the state.
No, we have enough as it is, so.
Exactly.
Your interest.
Excellent point. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, on to our our next item.
So we're going to talk, unfortunately, again, a little bit about budget and proposed reductions, and I wanted to start with a summary of the latest Board of Finance meeting. Tara attended that meeting. It was in response to really Governor Malloy's second budget proposal that we know had more significant impact than his first proposal did to Simsbury, and being the timeline what it was, the Board of Finance had to move a budget number forward to referendum. So they had requested at the prior Board of Finance meeting that we kind of consider what we could do with our budgets, and had talked about a reduction of $400,000. Tara did, I thought, a great job talking to the Board of Finance about the fact how we have engaged actively in the process. We recognize the challenges. To date, we had come up with $800,000 of reductions that you're all aware of. I mean, we had a pretty transparent and open dialogue about that. We had submitted a new budget number, and at that point in time, she was requesting that the Board of Finance did not reduce our budget any further. They actually had a pretty lively and engaging conversation. I think it was an hour and 20 minutes about kind of Tara's request and what to do and how to move forward, and included the Board of Selectmen as well. Where they landed was an additional reduction of $200,000, and that is inclusive of the number that was moved forward to referendum. So that is a done deal. So what I put before you tonight are some recommendations. This does not have to be voted on. We know what the number is. We have a bit of a gift of time, but these are the ideas that we've come up with thus far, again, with the guidance from the board of keeping things as far away from the classroom as we can, recognizing that that's becoming next to impossible at this point when you reduce that amount of money. We're upwards of 12, 13 full-time equivalent positions that I know we're all aware of. So I am going to have our staff kind of go through these. We'll open it up to questions, and I'll respond the best I can to any concerns we have, and we'll move on from there. But I'll have Sue kind of talk through a collaborative that we're working on that I think is in the spirit of regionalization and a lot of the ideas that are going on.
Absolutely. So as you know, districts are encouraged to collaborate and find efficiencies within services. And I have a great partner in Dr. Lori Singer in Farmington, and we were discussing some of those efficiencies, and they are going to be looking to restructure some of their nursing services with some pending retirements in their district. And she asked if we would be willing to engage in a share of our Director of Health Services, Sue Beardsley. And so I had a great conversation with Sue, and we've worked out a proposal. And this will enable Sue to be overseeing some of the great work that the Farmington nurses are doing 1 day a week. So that will, that savings that's captured there will be that 1 day of salary for her. And we're excited about that efficiency and that collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to the next couple that are on your list. Number 14 refers to student body activities. Really a feeling that if we were going to need to go to a cut as large as $1 million, that you needed to look at all cost centers, including those that captured some of the extracurricular activities and in particular our athletics program. The dollar amount that we are recommending here is a $20,000 savings to be found by our athletic director, Jeff Pinney. It is it's an interesting account because it is one where there are monies in and monies out during the course of the year, and it's thus very much athletics is a system that's managed throughout the year. And so it's asking Mr. Penny to take a look at that, perhaps looking at some of the assistant coaching positions that we've had where maybe there's been some shrinkage in the size of the rosters, and maybe not needing some of those positions, perhaps putting off on some purchase of new uniforms or perhaps some equipment, and looking to where we can generate revenue. He is optimistic with this number that it would not require an increase in the pay to participate fee that currently exists. We are at $175, which is pretty significant. He believes that at this level of $20,000, he can manage the budget with that amount of savings without needing to increase pay to participate. But that'll be up to him over the course of the year, and we'll monitor that savings is achieved. The next one, the most significant dollar cut that you'll see on here is a position that's our SHS custodial supervisor. This is one, as we went to look for savings, where can you capture non-teaching and learning savings in the organization? The first $800,000, as you know, at this board, we hit a lot of important teaching and learning items and looked for efficiencies in other places. This was one, so try to target something that is in the operational side, but also trying to look at management structures and where could we capture efficiency. The high school is obviously the largest operation on the maintenance and custodial side. As a result, what it has is a kind of a tiered system of leadership. This custodial supervisor is an unaffiliated position that oversees the next layer, and only at the high school is there another supervisory level where we also have a day shift supervisor and a night shift supervisor. Our belief as we move forward with this is that there may have been some redundancy there in the leadership structure, the management structure at the high school, and that thus to move forward with the idea that the equal partners of the day shift supervisor and the night shift supervisor become responsible to manage it. Let me be clear, this is a challenging cut. This is somebody with a lot of institutional knowledge of the events and the systems operations of the high school, the building plant. So this will undoubtedly put some stress on the system in terms of, there'll be some growing pains. There'll be some adjustments in terms of learning a new structure. We believe it's manageable, but it's going to have to be carefully managed with the help of our supervisor of buildings and grounds, Steve Twitchell. Probably going to assign assistant principal Steve Petrina to be working with that team to ensure that it moves forward. Obviously, from a salary standpoint, it's a pretty significant savings, but it's going to be a hard cut that we're really going to need to work at. This is a long-term employee that we are looking to put into a different portion of the organization where there is a vacancy. So it's while it's a challenging cut, it's one that, when you start to really hit hard cuts, you got to take some look at some structures that have been there a long time. And this is one that we did a lot of talking about, a lot of analysis. And at this time, we think it's the right recommendation to the board.
Thank you, Neil. The last item on the list I know has generated a great deal of conversation throughout the process. The reason the math coach is back on the list really is with the depth of cuts we've taken. It's a new position, so we bring that back to the board for some conversation and some feedback, recognizing that it's a priority of the district. So I kind of open it up at this point to members of the board for comments or questions.
Tom?
I hadn't realized that we're not voting on this. I thought there was going to be a vote on this, and I'd already expressed a view that I would find it very difficult to vote yes on this particular list of cuts because of item number 16. But I looked at these sheets when they arrived in my email box and looked at number 1 through number 16, and they've all been difficult cuts to make. But that number 16 really sticks out like a sore thumb for me because it is the one single, one of those cuts that is directly related to quality of education in a very, very important academic area at all levels, not just at the top levels, but all levels of math. And given the fact that we have this wonderful new Math in Focus system that we're trying to install here, we have done very well in our metrics in this district for a long time. But if somebody takes a real beady eye and looks at those metrics, the one place where we have obvious, as a system, room for improvements in math. And so, to me, I am so reluctant to even begin discussing line items with our management of the district, but I can't help it. This is one that, to me, is, as I said at the last meeting, I don't believe that we should allow a financial crisis in the state to start chipping away at our strategies. And this is the one cut that chips away at a strategy in terms of continuous improvement in our math program. And so I'm kind of glad we don't have to vote on it, because I'd vote no.
And I would just say to that, we've given a lot of thought about this. I acknowledge the challenge. We have a little bit, I guess I would say, it's not a gift, but we have some time, right, between now and really having to make decisions on this. I think an example is how Neil talked about the athletics, right? We're really having conversations about where that is going to come from. We know we're going to be accountable for the savings. You know, the dollar figure of $68,000, while I don't have an alternative to put on the list tonight, I really believe that we can continue to look at that dollar figure. As of today, we have 2 new retirements that we're not prepared to talk about publicly with so there are changes that take place over the course of the year. I would say this: we recognize, and it's not just you, Tom, other members of the board have this as a priority. We will do everything we can, I would say, to reinstate this. We're somewhat on our way with the retirements and some other things, some realized savings with teachers going out, new teachers coming in. So I would leave it at that. Know that I hear everything you're saying. We're going to work towards trying to make this happen. We don't have the dollars right now, but I think there may be enough shift in the size of our organization from now to when we open up. We had started the process on this. These are internal folks that have interest. This is not something that would take a large amount of time for us to fill in reality. So, we're queued up to make it happen. I think just we need to distance ourselves from the end of the year a little bit, see what other movement we get with personnel, and then see if we can make it happen. I'm optimistic, but I'm not there today. You know? Okay.
Matt, let me just say, I'm really happy to hear you say that, because as I've said before, these math and writing coaches are completely invaluable, and anybody who's got kids in the elementary schools right now knows that, so I'm very happy to hear that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm just curious, the way it's written on here, the .2 teacher for 6th grade. So does that mean we're looking at a reduction in 6th grade?
So Aaron can speak to that. That's a little too much detail on the list. That was for us at first. And then.
Sorry.
What is happening right now is that we have the accelerated math program for 6th graders that's taught at Henry James. So we would have to be careful, if this does get cut, if we don't reinstate it, then we would be using, as I had said previously, our elementary math resource teacher as the math coach, and we'd have to find another teacher to teach that math class, because she's currently teaching that class.
Okay.
So it's a little bit, it
just adds more complication to the
It's a little
process.
complicated, but we'd have to shift some responsibilities and put someone else teaching that math class. It would not get cut. We'd still provide the accelerated pre-algebra class for 6th graders.
Anyone else?
The only comment I would have is that I think we're sort of chasing a moving target. We don't know what the final budget amount from the state is going to be. The last day of the session, the regular session's tomorrow. They're not going to have a budget. At least that's all the signs. They haven't set a schedule for when they're going to get back together to try to set a budget, but it could be a month from now before we know what we're actually going to get. And I would be not at all surprised to hear that we need to have a meeting during the summer to figure out what the final,
No,
what an appropriate response to the final budget number is going to be. I think philosophically, though, going ahead into the future, we're going to face some really tough decisions about what we care about and what we're prepared to stand up and defend. I continue to think that it's not a matter of thinking about it. We know that the quality of the school system is inextricably tied to the value of homes and inextricably tied to the why people moved to Simsbury to begin with. So I think we have to do everything in our power to protect that. And I think it's going to get increasingly difficult. I don't know that we'll be able to help the Board of Finance avoid tax increases over the long run. I know that was the goal this year, but I'm not so sure it was the right goal at the end of the day. I think that upholding the value and the credibility of our school system, the reputation and the standings of our school system, that's more important to me than a 1 or 2 will increase in taxes. And I think most homeowners, if they really understood the impact of that, would agree with it. So those are the decisions we're going to face going forward. Once again, you guys have done a great job here, and I appreciate all the effort. I'm with Tom on this math coach issue. That's part and parcel of what I've been talking about in terms of upholding the quality of the system. So, but this is only one of a number of challenges I think we're going to face going forward. So we'll see what happens.
Just one additional comment. Just for the record, really, another major development has been a delay in the Henry James Memorial School project. Last I heard, it was a 1-year delay. And speaking for myself as a board member, I was very disappointed that action was taken. I don't think that it was quantified, I think, thoroughly enough. But I'm not a member of the Board of Finance. But I do hope that project does not lose momentum, because it goes right back to what Mike Goldman had said, that updating that school to a state-of-the-art school facility is absolutely essential to the quality of education here in this town. And let's not let that one get away.
Look, I think we should blank the Board of Finance at Farmington, with a $135 million plan for a new high school. Despite, now look, they have a much lower mill rate. I get that. I know those numbers better than most people, but the reality is that they have made a decision, and the decision is they're going to do what it takes to keep their system at the very uppermost of the rankings, because they know that will encourage people to buy homes and live in Farmington. And I think we need to really have we need to take a lot of time and think that whole process through. And maybe our task for this coming year is to really start this dialogue with the Board of Finance early.
Yep.
And
with the community, because I think
right,
it's important
I agree.
and we need to make sure that when we hear people at the supermarket, we need to make sure that they, formally let us know what they're thinking and what they care about, and formally let everybody in the town know, because everybody's voice needs to be heard, and I think that's important to get started early and often, as they say, so that everyone knows what's going on.
And I think we make sure that we provide opportunities for people to actually walk the halls of Henry James and truly see what we see and where we see the need and why we see the need. It goes back to that whole, all the work you all did to get the word out to the PTOs, but we need to make sure it goes beyond our school community. And that we get it to everybody, because it's a community building and it should be a community project.
Well, and the other piece is, you guys did such a great job, and we as a board are so thankful for the efforts you put in to try to make this as painless as possible. But $1 million out of a budget that is impossible to find $1 million is really painful.
And absolutely, you're in the buildings now, and anybody can, you talk to teachers too. There's an absolute nervousness out there.
Well, it adds a lot of stress.
Where it ends right now.
That's right. It adds a lot of stress. To manage. And that stress goes straight to our students.
Too. The kids are not immune to this. I don't know if you've heard. I've been hearing it from, different students are asking me, what are you guys going to talk about, and how are you going to do this? And it's not limited to the adults. The kids. No, and I think
I don't think everyone understands that as to all these conversations that we had, and the fact that we've been talking about this for as long as we have, and continuously asked for more and more cuts, has put a huge a huge stressor on our teachers, our administrators, our school district as a whole, because that all filters down to our students. So this has already affected us to a great degree. And we didn't even mention the custodial cut. Anytime you cut into that, you're cutting into town buildings, you're cutting into infrastructure, and those are things that, you shouldn't think about quickly or easily and don't take lightly. They're all important pieces to a successful community. So any of these cuts are not going to work well for anybody, but.
Very grateful for the director.
Yeah, we appreciate
That's the
helpful one, but-
upside of this whole piece of paper.
On that note, can we stop talking about it for a little bit?
Sure. Hey, can I just want to echo what Tara said and just thank you all. This has been an incredibly challenging process, and Matt and Burke and the team, you guys have just been great about laying it out and sort of as easy as for us as possible, so just thank you.
And I don't think we see the stressors, the stress
Absolutely.
that you guys went through. You bring it to us pretty and in a package, and I know it didn't come out that way, and it took a lot of hours and a lot of energy and a lot of soulful thinking, so we appreciate all the depth that you guys put into this.
And I think as far as the board too, and again, knowing the amount of work and that's gone into for administration to prepare this, but I think we as a board too, take ownership on celebrating the success of the district, and also but helping administration to in regards to what Tom was saying and others here about celebrating the success of what we do in the district within the community. I mean, this is more than just going into the grocery store and when we talk to somebody and tell them how great things are going. But it really is, it's a community effort. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for the success of how we got to where we are with the school, not, Henry James aside, but all the other buildings and all the other programs we put in place over the past X amount of years. And, one swipe of a budget can cut a lot of that out. So I think it's a campaign to, if as Mike was alluding to, if you believe in education and you believe in this community, you believe in this district, it's celebrating the successes of where we are, how we got to it, and it does take a whole community to keep that success going.
Well, thank you all very much. I'm going to open it up to public audience again. Andy, you want to tell us how great our kids are?
It would take quite a bit of time.
In our future businesses, we will have a special meeting on June 20th here in the same place, and I would accept any motions.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Oh my gosh, you people. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good, we are done. Thank you very much.
This is Google Maps.
Yeah, that's the little symbol that
Sweet, that's a great idea.
It was really creative. They did really good.
Thank you for staying, Mr. Secretary.
Look at that, Google Maps.
Yeah, that's great.
They have some people,
You already know
the
that.
maps on the signing pages, some people would sign where their house is.
Oh, what a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm out of town.
Do we have an agenda yet for the 20th?